You to imagine with me for a moment, you just had a really, really good week, good day. Let's just say a good day. You were productive at work, hit the deadline that you've been stressing over. You came home and feel like, man, I'm just on top of the world. You and your spouse, you even went on a date that evening and you had a great time. You and your spouse, like the conversation flowed so well, you didn't even like pick your phone up or even want to pick your phone up because, man, the connection is just happening and it's like, man, life is good. You ever had one of those days? They don't come around so often, do they? You feel like you're just crushing it. And then you sit down on a couch after the date night, you pull out your phone and you open up Instagram. And then you suddenly get these feelings like this. I think that I need a better job. I need a bigger house. Evidently I need a better marriage because everybody else's marriage seems to be doing incredibly. I think I have to parent better. And what's really going to solve all of it is if I could just get that new car. Social media has created a world full of what some sociologists call envy addicts. Envy addicts. We know what we see is not real. It's not everyday life. People do not post their everyday life on their social media. You're getting the highlight reel of somebody's life. But the illusion is that this is what everyday life looks like. We know that's not the case. We know not everybody's house looks that clean all the time. And if they do, they don't have children that live in the house anymore. We know that their kids are not always smiling and their kids are not always respectful, that they are human just like our families are human, but yet we find ourselves going back to it, looking at these highlights and finding ourselves longing and being jealous and having envy for other people's lives. And so today, we're going to talk about envy and jealousy and how easy it is for us to live with this idea of envy and jealousy, these emotions, these wants, these desires, but often overlook them. Envy and jealousy. We're going to be in Genesis chapter 37 this morning on the story of Joseph as he receives dreams from the Lord and shares with his family. Genesis chapter 37, verses 3 through 11. Now, Israel loved Joseph more than any of his other sons because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a robe of many colors. But when his brothers saw that their father loved them more than all his brothers, they hated him, and they could not speak peacefully to him. Now, Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him even more. And he said to them, "Hear this dream that I have dreamed. Behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and behold, my sheaf arose and stood upright. And behold, your sheaves gathered around it and bowed down to my sheaf." And his brothers said to him, "Are you indeed to reign over us? Or are you indeed to rule over us?" So they hated him even more for his dreams and for his words. Verse 9. And then he dreamed another dream, and he told it to his brothers and said, "Behold, I have dreamed another dream. Behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars were bowing down to me." But when he had told it to his father and to his brothers, his father rebuked him, and he said to him, "What is this dream that you have dreamed? Shall I and your mother and your brothers indeed come and bow ourselves to the ground before you?" And his brothers were jealous of him, and his father kept the saying in mind. This is a really interesting passage of scripture this morning. The last 4 weeks, including today, we have been walking through a series called Summer Baggage. We're going to be getting back into the Gospel of Mark next Sunday. And we've been talking about a few different areas that we can live with as followers of Jesus. And we carry these things like heavy baggage with us throughout our lives. We've talked about pride, bitterness. We've talked about fear. And today we're talking about envy and jealousy. And really in this passage today, you can think for a moment, like, I think Joseph's brothers are justified in their jealousy of their brother. I want to really dive in today because I think what we're going to see at the end of this sermon, the end of this passage, is that we all struggle with envy and jealousy, and we need to really root it out of our lives. Let's look at verse 3 and 4. If you're new with us, we take a passage of scripture, we study it, We walk through it line by line, and that is, you just hold your place in Genesis 37. We'll jump around a little bit, but not too much. It says, now Israel loved Joseph more than any of his other sons because he was a son of his old age. And he made him a robe of many colors. And when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and could not speak peacefully to him. First of all, this is a wild story. That it would blatantly say that Israel loved his brother, his son Jacob, that Jacob loved his son Joseph more than all of his other brothers. I think that's pretty bold. I think every family is convinced, especially the children, that there is a favorite in the family. And if you are not sure who that favorite is in your family, you are the favorite. This is it's kind of like older siblings versus younger siblings. You know, like older siblings, when you're growing up, older siblings don't have the same life that the younger siblings have. You ever had this experience? Older siblings, you're like, your parents are poor. They have no money, right? They have no time, they have no money. It's like, you got the short end of the stick in parenting, I'm sorry. The younger kids, they get to go out to eat and order things like appetizers. And you're like, I didn't know we could do that. That's pretty awesome that you get to order tableside guacamole. We waited for a 50-cent cheeseburger day at McDonald's, and that was a treat. Now, Joseph is an interesting case because Joseph wasn't the youngest son. In fact, he has a younger brother, had a younger brother named Benjamin that was born. But listen, here it's an interesting place in the birth order because he was the firstborn of Jacob's wife, Rachel. So if you know the story, if you don't, you can continue to read previously in Genesis. Jacob, who is now named Israel, where the 12 tribes of Israel come from, finds this lady named Rachel, and he falls in love with her. He's like, this is the one. Like, she's beautiful, she's hardworking, like this is the one that I have longed for and prayed for. And he goes to the father-in-law, and he does this like switcheroo. It's wild. He gives him the other sister. People think the Bible is boring. I'm like, this is better than any drama you could find on TV. Like, I'm going to trick you, and now you get Leah. And poor Leah, all throughout the Bible, is known as like the one that's not as pretty as Rachel. Like, could you imagine? You made it in the Bible, and that's what you're known as. Pretty unfortunate. Jacob waited years and years to marry her. He loved her more than anything. Well, Leah started to have these kids with Jacob. Rachel couldn't have kids. Eventually, as they got older, here comes Joseph, born to the prized bride of Jacob, Rachel, and all of these other sons, all older, should have the right of prominence, heirs to the family first, family trust, so to speak. And Joseph comes along, and Jacob makes him his favorite. And it's like he puts this robe over him. Like, you are my dear son. Could you imagine being one of the other sons like, hi, Dad. I'm here too. Can I get a proud of you? And Joseph gets this robe put on him. It signifies divine appointment or like this prominence, prestige. Obviously, there would be tension here because who wouldn't want and long for their father to love them like that? I want my dad to love me like he loves Joseph. Here's the problem, is that the brothers wanted something that they didn't have. They longed for it. They fought for it. They did whatever it took to get it. And today, easily, I think what we can struggle with is that we can justify our jealousy or our envy of other things. We can easily justify our envy or jealousy of other things, and we do it by saying this: I deserve that. I've worked hard. I deserve that promotion. I've done this. I deserve that experience. What's interesting about this passage is that it does not say that Jacob stopped loving his other sons, but the other sons wanted what Jacob had. And so this is the progression that happens. It starts with comparison, but it ends up leading to jealousy and envy. My life looks different than their life, and so what I have isn't good enough, and so I'm going to go after what they have. Because their family's better, I want my family to be better than their family. Because they have more things, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get more things. Because they have what it seems like the perfect life, I'm going to create and craft this perfect life. Soren Kierkegaard said it this way, is that comparison is the end of happiness and the beginning of discontent. Comparison is the end of happiness and the beginning of discontent. When we start to focus on what is missing from our lives and what other people have in their lives, discontentment rises quickly in our hearts and in our lives. And what is sad about it is that when we live with jealousy and envy and longing for what others have, we end up missing what the Lord has put right in front of us. We end up missing it because we're focused on what we do not have. And see, this story of Joseph and his brothers, whether they were justified in their feelings or not, is that they began to long for something that wasn't theirs. It was their father's to give, but the brothers were trying to stake claim on it. They were loved. They were cared for, and we could have the conversation about fairness and all the things. They were loved, they were cared for, but the human inclination says, what I have is not enough. So I'll do whatever it takes to get there. And the same goes for us, is that we end up trying to stake claim on something that isn't ours, but rather it is the Father's to give. You know, I don't say this as like a brag. This is not a brag because that's nothing to do with me. I know a few pretty wealthy people through the church world, not our church, but the church world, and they're kingdom-minded people and just invest in the kingdom. One of the things that I've learned about wealthy people by being around them, please, I just want to give a discount. Please don't leave, think, oh, Derek's all about the prosperity thing. That's not at all. You come here any amount of time, you'll hear it. We're not there. Selfishly, I want to be at times, but I'm not. We're not there. People that have wealth have a self-control that I do not have. Because, sure, they have nice things, they have nice experiences, but if I had wealth, you would see a new restored hot rod right outside this door over here every Sunday morning that the Lord blessed me with, right there. You know what, the wealthy people that I know, they don't have the longing for all the things. It's always the people that don't have the wealth that are longing for all the things. Maybe there's something there. So we try to stake claim on something that isn't ours. Rather, it is the Father's to give. And here's the reality. If we are not careful, we end up questioning God's blessing on our lives. Proverbs 14:30 says it this way, is that a tranquil heart gives life to the flesh, but envy makes the bones rot. Envy makes the bones rot. When we allow jealousy and envy to live in our hearts, it will rot our lives to the bones. It is never enough. You ever feel like that? Never enough. There's always more to get. Look at verses 5-8. Now Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him even more. He said to them, hear this dream that I've dreamed. Behold, they were binding sheaves in the field. And behold, my sheaf arose and stood upright. And behold, your sheaves gathered around it. And they bowed down to my sheaf. And his brothers in anger said, are you indeed to reign over us? Are you to rule over us? So they hated him even more for the dreams and for his words. Now, there's a whole nother sermon here on Joseph and the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge is having information. Wisdom is knowing when to share it. Knowledge is having information. Wisdom is knowing when to share it. So a little bit about the dream that Joseph has here, because I don't know if Joseph fully knew. The scripture doesn't give us inclination here, but I don't know if Joseph fully knew what he was actually saying, that you are going to bow down to me. I don't know if he just got eager. I don't know if he got like, hey, I got to tell somebody about this. Brothers, listen. But the language here feels a little bit foreign to us. It says binding sheaves. Again, we don't talk like that. I've never left my house in the morning. I said, Lindsay, I'm going to go bind some sheaves. I'll be back later with a tan. This is cutting the stalk of a ripe harvest. So like, imagine a field full of harvest, and they're cutting the stalk and they're putting them in piles and tying them together. And Joseph's dream is, we're collecting those things. Mine stands upright, and all of yours comes and bows down in front of mine. It's odd, but this vision was a vision of what was going to come on later. As years later, the brothers would come to Egypt and bow in front of Joseph, asking for favor and blessing from their brother. But in the meantime, the brothers hated him even more. I want you to notice the progression here. At first, they were jealous of their father's love for Joseph. Now, hatred has grown in their heart towards their brother. And here's the caution for us. When we allow envy and jealousy to sit in our hearts and to live and take up residence in our hearts, it rarely stays as envy and jealousy. It always builds to something else, and many times that looks like hatred. It goes quickly from wishing for something to wishing ill towards someone. Jerry Bridges, the author of Respectable Sins, says it this way, is that envy is the painful or resentful awareness of others' advantages. You ever said that? Like, wish I had it like that. Oh, come on. I know you have. I wish I got that handed to me. Must be nice. Listen, what I've seen in my own life, and maybe it's true for yours, is that we are usually really gracious with our own lives, but critical of others. Usually gracious with our own lives, but critical of others. So we say things like this: they don't deserve that. What are we actually saying when we say they don't deserve that? The inference is, but I deserve it. But do we? Do we really deserve the things that we're saying, I deserve that, and they don't deserve it? We have to pay attention to these things. And so, how do envy and jealousy play out for us? I want to talk about the church world, the church community for a moment. Because we can sometimes see these issues as something that only happens with worldly things like possessions, but it's much more than that. In fact, Christians are professionals at coding things in spiritual language and not actually dealing with the issues in their life. Maybe I should say, I am a professional at coding the things and making them sound spiritual. So what if envy and jealousy can show up in the longing and the desire for other people's giftings? What if God did not gift you with singing or teaching or an upfront gift? What if you never get a microphone in a church service on a Sunday morning ever in the history of your life? Some of you are like, please and thank you. Because it would terrify you. But for a lot of people, they struggle with like, I don't have that gifting, so I long and I desire and I want. I'm not saying it's bad to long for those desires and those giftings. It can be a beautiful gift. What if he doesn't bless you with singing or musical ability? Here's the beauty of the church is that it takes all kinds of giftings. Because without knowing it, what we're doing is we're questioning God's ability to impart gifts to his children to equip the church for the work of the ministry. And we're saying, because I don't have this gift, I'm not as valuable. But here's the reality. If all of us in this room were gifted musically or with our voice or with teaching, the reality is this would be a miserable place. Because one thing about people that have those giftings is they're always looking for critique in other people's giftings. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't need any more critique in my life. Anybody with me? Jealousy will distort our view of others. Instead of championing others, we tear them down. Instead of encouragement, critique. So we find ourselves like this, a couple of those singers, they didn't hit those notes this morning. Well, here's the reality. You can't even keep a tune in the shower. So take it down a notch, Brother Joe. That wasn't for you, Joe. Where you at? Sorry, it just came out. I threw a name out there, Joe. We say things like, did you hear that drummer this morning? He missed that beat and ruined the song. I couldn't even worship anymore. That sermon, I don't know what Derek's been doing in the week, but it wasn't good. Instead of, I'm so glad that person is using their gifts for the church and God's church, it becomes critique. And many times critique is just dressed up as envy and jealousy. Now let's take this outside of the church for a moment, because it's not only in the church. We long and desire for things inside the church, but like your everyday life, because our goal here at Collective is not that you're the best Christian in the world on Sunday mornings, but that you are an everyday follower of Jesus. We take it into our communities, into our neighborhoods, into our sports teams, into our third spaces that we talk about and we are involved in. What about that neighbor that seems to always one-up you with possessions? Do you have this neighbor? You finally get a new golf cart. The ultimate suburban status. Listen, you have made it. And you cruise your neighborhood like a king or queen. Where are you going? We don't know, but we're going. You can tell all the people that live in golf cart neighborhoods. They're like, what do y'all do? Where are y'all going? Just cruising. Cool, it's 100 outside. So you get that golf cart, you've made it, and now your neighbor shows up with a 6-seater EV golf cart that goes 10 miles an hour faster than yours. And it has a backup camera on it. Listen. If you need a backup camera on a golf cart, you should not be driving a golf cart. That's all the Wood Forest people laughing, by the way. We get the Wood Forest rejects. They're like, I don't really fit in, so we're going to go to a Collective. Or Greg kicked you out of Restoration. Either one. Greg's a great friend. That's just being silly. And it's 11:30 service, and I'm feeling great. Okay. 11 service. See, I can't even get the service time right. But then you have a coworker. Gets promotions that you thought you deserved. If that management knew. If management knew. We could spend all day talking about jealousy and envy, because the hard reality is it is in each of our lives. We just don't always recognize it, but we need to. My encouragement to you is this: do not allow envy to take up residence in your heart. Fight it. There is never going to be enough. You know, you don't need more zeros behind your pay stub check. What you need is more time with your family. You don't need more toys and possessions. You need to invest in your marriage. I don't know if you can sense this or not, but what we're doing right now is not working in the world. And it's almost like, do we have to crash and burn all the way before we realize this is not sustainable? The longing and the desiring, I've got to have more, I've got to have more, I've got to do more, I've got to experience more. Like, what happens in my life if I don't get to take a selfie at Lake Como? Who cares? Great experience, go for it, do it. We're missing something when we are always longing for that next thing. We're missing what's right in front of us. Verses 9 through 11. And then he dreamed another dream, and he told it to his brothers and said, "Behold, I have dreamed another dream. Behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars were bowing down to me." But when he told it to his father and to his brothers, his father rebuked him, saying, "What is this dream that you have dreamed? Shall I and your mother and your brothers indeed come to bow down to you before you?" And his brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the saying in mind. If the first dream wasn't enough, Joseph comes with another dream. Like, I read this and I'm like, read the room, Joseph. Like, the first one did not go well. I don't think the second one is going to go well either. They're jealous of him. The word jealous here, it carries the meaning of being red in the face. So overcome with emotion that their faces were red. Do you have a tell like in your life, like when you're frustrated about something? Some people, it's like their ears get a little bit red. Some people, their nostrils kind of. Mine is my jaw. Lindsay could tell from across the room when something's not right because I'm like, and she's like, "What's wrong?" "Nothing." His brothers are overcome with emotion, frustrated with their younger brother, Joseph, who is the favorite. And now you're showing up telling us these dreams that we're going to bow down before you. The audacity. But I want you to notice that the father is now involved. The second dream references the sun and the moon, and most scholars believe this is a reference to the father and mother, which is interesting because Joseph's mother, Rachel, died while giving birth to his younger brother, Benjamin. And so it's kind of an interesting story there, but you think he's saying the sun and the moon, the mom and dad of our kingdom, are going to come around and they're going to bow down to me. This dream was not received well by his father. He rebuked him. And there can be multiple reasons for this. Scripture doesn't give us the reason why, but there's tension, obviously. You ever been in a family meeting where there's tension? It's fun. You ever had a family get together after drama? Y'all got those perfect families. I see. You're like, what if they RSVP? What are we going to do? There's tension. In one moment, Jacob rebukes Joseph, but in the next it says that his father kept the saying in mind. It's possible that Jacob rebukes him because Joseph is only 17 years old at the time, which tracks because I've not met a 17-year-old that doesn't know everything there is to know about life yet. I know I thought I had life figured out by 17. I was 17 years old in my first week of college. I'm like, I've got this. Didn't last long. Went away real quick. Could also be that Jacob sees that that Joseph's brothers are about to murder him. Like, maybe I could take the temperature down just a little bit. It's the paradox of this story. Rebuke, keep in mind. Here's the difference. Between the brothers and the father, the brothers allowed jealousy to destroy their relationship with their brother. So much so that they sold their brother into slavery. Listen, I grew up with two brothers. So there's three of us. I've done some pretty rough stuff to my brothers. If you've grown up in a boy household, you know what I'm talking about. Like, nothing's off limits with brothers. If you read this, I'm like, I may have thought about selling them into slavery, but we never did it. It destroys relationships. When we allow jealousy to take residence in our hearts. So listen to the progression. Comparison births jealousy. Jealousy gives birth to hate. And the fruit of that is that your relationships are destroyed. Comparison births jealousy. They have something that I don't have, and I want it. I need it. Jealousy gives birth to hate because they have what I want, I can't get it. Hatred rises up. And in the end, relationships are destroyed. It starts off as something small. But if we don't allow the Spirit of God to weed this out of our hearts, we're walking down a very dangerous road. Is there jealousy or envy in your heart? It could be for anything. Some of you, the temptation is not more toys. You could care less. For some of you, it may be possessions. You're like, I just got to have the newest of everything, or I'm not. Like, it's status symbol, right? Got to have it. See, the story of Joseph, it should sound really, really familiar. Joseph, the beloved son, rejected by his own people. His family was envious of him. His family harmed him. And eventually, what others meant for harm, God turned for his good and glory. Does that sound familiar? Because this is the story of Jesus, the beloved son that was rejected by his own people. Envy got the better of others, and God took the darkest day in history and made it for our good and for his glory and providing salvation for you and for me. See, we have to get to a point that we live with this mentality that says, if the Lord does nothing else for me for the rest of my life, he's already done enough. Why? Because he has rescued your life from the very pit of hell. What else could you need? I think we sometimes gloss over it, like, we have been rescued and we've been put in the firm and secure grip of the creator of the universe. And there's nothing that the enemy can do to take us away from that grip. So if he does nothing else, say, Lord, you're worthy of my life and worthy of my praise. Do not get caught up in the strife of envy and jealousy. It is a sticky trap, and it's really hard to get out of.